My name is Ethan, and if you had asked me a year ago what forever looked like, I would have smiled and said one name. Sophia. I truly believed she was the love of my life. We came from completely different worlds. I worked long hours, counted every dollar, and rented a tiny apartment that barely fit my bed. She was the daughter of one of the richest families in the city. She grew up in a mansion with gates taller than my apartment building. None of that mattered when we first met. "Is this seat taken?" she asked with a warm smile. I looked up from my coffee. "No. Go ahead." "Thanks." She sat down without hesitation. "You look like you've had a rough day," she said. I laughed softly. "Is it that obvious?" "A little. I'm Ethan." "Sophia." We talked for almost 3 hours. She laughed at my terrible jokes. I listened to her dreams. When the cafe closed, neither of us wanted to leave. "I had fun," she admitted. "So did I." "Can I see you again?" "I was hoping you'd ask." That was how everything started. Our dates became a routine. We walked through parks instead of expensive restaurants. We shared ice cream instead of fancy desserts. She never complained. "You know," I told her one evening, "I can't buy you the kind of gifts you're probably used to." She squeezed my hand. "I don't care about expensive gifts." "You don't?" "I care about how you make me feel." "And how do I make you feel?" "Safe." Those words stayed with me. For the first time in years, I believed I was enough. Months passed, and we fell deeply in love. "I love you," I whispered one night. She smiled through happy tears. "I love you too." I believed every word. One afternoon, she invited me to a party at her family's estate. "I want everyone important to meet you," she said. "Are you sure?" "Of course." I was nervous the entire drive. "I don't belong here," I admitted. She reached across the console. "You belong wherever you're with me." I smiled. I needed to hear that. The party was beautiful. Luxury cars lined the driveway. People wore designer clothes that probably cost more than my monthly salary. Sophia held my hand proudly. Then she introduced me to her closest friends. "Ethan, this is Vanessa." Vanessa smiled confidently. "I've heard so much about you. It's nice to meet you. And this is Claire." Claire gave a gentle wave. "Hi. It's nice to meet you too." At first, both of them seemed welcoming. Vanessa laughed at my stories. Claire asked polite questions. Everything felt normal. Until dinner. Vanessa tilted her head. "So, Ethan, what exactly do you do?" "I manage operations for a shipping company." "Oh." Her smile stayed, but something about it changed. "And that's enough to support Sophia?" Sophia answered before I could. "I support myself." Vanessa laughed lightly. "I know. I'm just curious." I forced a smile. "It's okay." Claire finally spoke. "Love is more important than money." I relaxed. Then Vanessa added quietly, "Sometimes." Nobody responded. The conversation moved on, but that single word stayed in my mind. Sometimes. Over the following weeks, I spent more time with Sophia and her friends. Little comments kept appearing. "They're opening another luxury hotel," Vanessa said one afternoon. Sophia nodded. "My father invested in it." Vanessa smiled. "Imagine being with someone who could build something like that." She glanced at me for only a second. It was enough. Another evening, Claire looked at Sophia and asked, "Have your parents met Ethan yet?" "They will." "Are they happy?" Sophia hesitated. "They have questions." Vanessa laughed. "They always want the best for you." I stayed quiet. Sophia touched my arm. "Don't worry." "I'm not." I lied. One night I finally asked her, "Do your friends like me?" She looked surprised. "Why would you ask that?" "I don't know." "You've noticed Vanessa?" "A little." Sophia sighed. "She's protective." "Protective or judgmental?" "They're not the same thing." "I know." She kissed my cheek. "Don't overthink it." "I'll try." Because I trusted her. I convinced myself I was imagining everything. Every strange glance. Every awkward silence. Every comment about wealth. Every reminder that I wasn't part of their world. I kept telling myself love was stronger. I believed her heart mattered more than her family's fortune. I believed our future was already written. Looking back now, I can see how blind I was. The warning signs weren't hidden. I simply refused to see them. A week later, we attended another gathering. Vanessa walked over with Claire beside her. Sophia, Vanessa said. Can I borrow you for a second? Sure. They stepped a few feet away. I wasn't trying to listen. I just happened to look up. Vanessa leaned close and whispered into Sophia's ear. As she spoke, she never looked away from me. Neither did Claire. Sophia's smile slowly faded. A cold feeling settled in my chest. For the first time since falling in love, I wondered if someone was trying to take the future I thought we were building together. I knew something was wrong the moment Sophia called me. We need to talk. Her voice was flat. Is everything okay? We'll talk when you get here. The call ended before I could ask another question. My stomach tightened as I drove to her family's estate. She usually greeted me with a smile, but this time she stood in the garden with Vanessa and Claire beside her. A few guests wandered nearby, pretending not to watch. I walked toward her. Hey, I said softly. What's going on? She folded her arms. We need to clear something up. I frowned. Okay. Vanessa looked at me with a smug smile. This won't take long. I ignored her. Sophia, talk to me. She stared into my eyes, but the warmth I loved was gone. I have a question. Anything. Did you ever love me? The question hit me like a punch. What? Answer me. Of course I did. Of course I do. She laughed bitterly. That's not what I've been hearing. I looked from her to Vanessa and then Claire. What are you talking about? Sophia took a slow breath. People don't stay with someone like me unless they want something. I never wanted anything from you. You wanted my family's money. No. You wanted our name. No. You wanted our connections. I shook my head. Sophia, listen to yourself. I'm listening now. I should have listened sooner. My heart raced. Who told you this? Vanessa stepped forward. We've watched you for months. I stared at her. You've watched me love her. She shrugged. We've watched you pretend. Claire nodded quietly. There were signs. What signs? I demanded. Vanessa crossed her arms. You always let Sophia pay. She insisted. You never fit into her world. I never tried to. You acted humble because it worked. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Sophia, you know that's not true. She looked away. I thought I did. I stepped closer. Look at me. She hesitated before meeting my eyes. When we met, I didn't even know who you were. I know. I fell in love with you, not your last name. She remained silent. I never asked you for money. Silence. I never asked your father for a job. Silence. I never asked for gifts. Vanessa laughed. That's what makes a good liar convincing. I turned toward her. Stay out of this. I'm protecting my best friend. No. You're destroying her trust. Sophia raised her voice. Don't blame Vanessa. I'm blaming the lies. They're not lies. I felt my chest tighten. Then what am I supposed to say? The truth. I've been telling you the truth. She shook her head. I don't believe you anymore. Those words shattered something inside me. I searched her face, hoping to find the woman who used to hold my hand and tell me I was enough. She was gone. Instead, I saw someone who looked at me with suspicion, someone I barely recognized. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed a man standing near the entrance. Mr. Harrison, Sophia's father. He watched silently with his hands behind his back. He didn't interrupt. He didn't defend me. He simply observed everything. I looked back at Sophia. Is this really how it ends? She swallowed hard. I think it has to. No. Ethan. No. Don't do this because someone else filled your head with doubts. This is my decision. Is it? Vanessa answered before Sophia could. It is now. I ignored her again. Sophia, remember everything we've been through. I remember. Remember our first coffee. I remember. The walks. I remember. The promises. A tear rolled down her cheek. I remember all of it. Then don't throw it away. She closed her eyes for a second. When she opened them, they were cold. It's over. The words echoed through the garden. I don't want to see you again. I couldn't breathe. Please. She took one step back. I said it's over. The people nearby stopped pretending not to watch. Every pair of eyes seemed fixed on me. I felt exposed. Humiliated. Broken. I looked one last time at the woman I had planned to spend my life with. I loved you with everything I had. She said nothing. Vanessa slipped an arm around her shoulders. Claire remained beside them without speaking. Mr. Harrison continued watching in silence. No one came after me. No one stopped me as I turned around. Every step away from that garden felt heavier than the last. I wanted to run back. I wanted to fight for us. I wanted her to remember who we had been. Instead, I kept walking. My heart felt like it had been torn apart, but I refused to look back again. As I reached the gate, I wiped away the tears on my face. If love has to be begged for, I whispered to myself, then it isn't love. My voice trembled, but my decision did not. No matter how badly this destroyed me, I would never beg anyone to love me again. The weeks after the breakup felt like a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. Every morning, I stared at my phone, expecting a message that never came. Every night, I replayed our last conversation. It's over. Those two words haunted me. At work, I made mistakes I had never made before. Ethan. I looked up. My office. Now. I followed my supervisor with a sinking feeling. He closed the door behind us. What's going on with you? I'm sorry. You've missed deadlines. I know. You've made errors that cost us clients. I know. He sighed. This isn't the employee I hired. I rubbed my face. I've been dealing with some personal things. I understand, but this company can't survive on sympathy. I'll fix it. I hope so. I walked back to my desk feeling even worse. For months, I had built a reputation as someone reliable. Now I could barely trust myself. During lunch, I stared out the office window. A familiar voice interrupted my thoughts. Ethan? I turned around. Daniel. He smiled. I almost didn't recognize you. Daniel had been my manager years earlier. He had taught me more about discipline than anyone else. What are you doing here? I asked. I was meeting someone upstairs. He studied my face. You don't look okay. I forced a smile. I've had better days. You have time for coffee? I almost said no. Instead, I nodded. We sat in a quiet cafe across the street. Daniel waited until the drinks arrived. So, he said, what happened? I laughed bitterly. The woman I wanted to marry ended things. I'm sorry. I thought she'd always believe in me. And she believed other people instead. Daniel didn't interrupt. I appreciated that. I keep asking myself what I did wrong. He leaned forward. Did you lie to her? No. Did you cheat? Never. Did you use her? Not for a second. Then stop accepting blame that doesn't belong to you. His words hit harder than I expected. It's not that easy. No, he agreed. It isn't. He took a sip of coffee. But healing starts when you stop chasing people who already walked away. I stared at the table. I keep hoping she'll come back. And if she doesn't, I had no answer. Daniel reached into his briefcase and handed me a folder. What's this? A job offer. I looked at him in surprise. My company is opening a new regional office in another city. I opened the folder. We need someone honest. I kept reading. We need someone disciplined. I looked up, and I believe you're still that person. I don't know anymore. I do. The confidence in his voice almost made me emotional. You'd leave everything behind, he continued. Maybe that's exactly what I need. He smiled. Think about it. I don't need to. You've decided already? I nodded slowly. There's nothing left here for me. A week later, I packed everything I owned into my car. There wasn't much. A few boxes, some clothes, a handful of photographs I couldn't bring myself to throw away. Before leaving, I looked around my empty apartment. So this is goodbye. For the first time, I wasn't talking to Sophia. I was talking to the version of myself that had spent months waiting for someone who wasn't coming back. The new city felt unfamiliar. That was exactly what I wanted. No memories, no whispers, no painful reminders. My first day at work began with a handshake. Welcome aboard, Daniel said. It's good to have you here. I won't let you down. I know. He introduced me to the team. One woman stepped forward with a friendly smile. Hi, I'm Emily. I'm Ethan. I'll be helping you get settled. Thanks. If you have questions, just ask. I probably will. She laughed. Everyone does. Over the next few weeks, Emily became the coworker everyone wished they had. She never asked painful questions. She never pushed me to talk about my past. Instead, she focused on the present. You skipped lunch again, she said one afternoon. I was busy. That's not an excuse. It worked yesterday. It won't work today. She placed a sandwich on my desk. You need food if you're going to keep solving everyone's problems. I smiled for the first time in days. Thanks. You're welcome. Slowly, my life found a rhythm. Wake up early. Exercise. Work hard. Read before bed. Sleep. Repeat. The routine didn't erase the pain. It simply gave me something stronger than it. Purpose. One evening, Daniel stopped by my office. You've changed. I hope that's a good thing. It is. You carry yourself differently. I thought about that for a moment. I finally realized something. What's that? My value isn't decided by the person who rejected me. Daniel smiled proudly. Exactly. For the first time since the breakup, I believed those words. Meanwhile, miles away, Sophia's life continued without me. I heard small pieces through mutual acquaintances. Vanessa had become even more involved in every decision Sophia made. Claire agreed with almost everything Vanessa said. Together, they questioned every friendship, every business contact, every choice. If they're not good enough, Vanessa would say, they don't belong in your life. At first, everyone listened. Then people slowly began keeping their distance. Some friendships quietly disappeared. Business relationships became strained. Even Claire occasionally looked uncomfortable with how far things were going. The lies they had used to destroy my relationship were beginning to spread beyond me. Like cracks in glass, they kept growing. None of them noticed. I didn't know whether fate would ever bring Sophia and me together again. I wasn't waiting anymore. For the first time in months, I looked in the mirror and didn't see a broken man. I saw someone rebuilding himself, one honest day at a time, and somehow, that felt like the beginning of a completely different life. 6 months changed my life more than the previous 6 years ever had. The pain never disappeared completely, but it no longer controlled my mornings. Instead of waking up wondering whether Sophia missed me, I woke up thinking about meetings, projects, and goals. One morning, Daniel walked into my office carrying a folder. You've got a minute? Always. He placed the folder on my desk. Open it. I flipped through the papers, confused. What is this? A promotion. I looked at him. You're serious? He nodded. You've become one of the strongest leaders on this team. I wasn't expecting this. That's why you earned it. I laughed. A year ago, I thought my life was over. Daniel smiled. Sometimes life has to break your plans before it gives you better ones. I stood and shook his hand. Thank you. No, he replied. You earned this yourself. Those words stayed with me all day. For the first time, my confidence came from my own work instead of someone else's approval. Later that afternoon, Emily stopped by my office. I heard the news. So it's spread already? She laughed. Nothing stays secret around here. I guess not. I'm proud of you. Thanks. You deserve it. I smiled. You've been saying that for months. Because it's true. She handed me a coffee. A celebration. I'll take free coffee anytime. You'd better. It cost me $5. I laughed harder than I had in a long time. Life finally felt peaceful. Not perfect. Just peaceful. Then the rumors started. One evening an old coworker called me. You won't believe what's happening back home. I probably don't need to. It involves Sophia. I sighed. I'd rather not. You sure? I'm sure. He hesitated. Her friends are fighting. That caught my attention. Vanessa and Claire? Yeah. What happened? No one seems to know. I hope they figure it out. You don't sound interested. I'm not. After hanging up, I put my phone away. Months earlier, I would have begged for every detail. Now I simply returned to my work. Some stories no longer belong to me. Meanwhile, cracks were beginning to appear in Sophia's world. I only learned pieces later. She had started questioning small things. One afternoon, she reportedly asked Vanessa, "When exactly did Ethan ask my father for money?" Vanessa hesitated. "He didn't ask directly. I thought you said he did." "Well, he wanted opportunities." Sophia frowned. "He never mentioned that to me." Vanessa quickly changed the subject. But the question remained. Another day, Sophia spoke with Claire. "You told me Ethan lied about where he worked." Claire looked confused. "I never said that." "You did." I said Vanessa heard something. So you never actually knew? Claire stayed silent. That silence spoke louder than any answer. The contradictions kept growing. At a business dinner, Sophia accidentally overheard Jason talking with Vanessa. Jason was Vanessa's ambitious boyfriend. He loved expensive suits, expensive watches, and even more expensive dreams. Sophia wasn't meant to hear them. Jason laughed. I still can't believe she believed everything. Vanessa lowered her voice. It wasn't difficult. You barely had evidence. I didn't need evidence. You just kept repeating the same story. Vanessa smiled proudly. People believe confidence more than facts. Jason chuckled. That worked better than I expected. Sophia quietly walked away before they noticed her. For the first time, doubt replaced certainty. She replayed every conversation we had ever shared, every accusation, every answer I had given, every time I calmly denied using her. Questions filled the space where certainty once lived. Meanwhile, Vanessa and Claire's friendship continued falling apart. Claire confronted her one evening. You went too far. I protected Sophia. No, I did. You manipulated her. Vanessa folded her arms. So now you're blaming me? I'm blaming both of us. You agreed with everything. I trusted you. That's your problem. Claire shook her head. I trusted the wrong person. Their friendship, once unbreakable, slowly collapsed under the weight of the lies they had created together. Back in my new city, I knew almost none of these details. I only heard scattered rumors. Emily looked over my shoulder one afternoon. You've ignored 3 calls. I glanced at my phone. Unknown number. It can wait. It might be important. If it's important, they'll leave a message. She shrugged. Fair enough. That evening I checked my voicemail. Silence. Only a missed call. The same thing happened the next day. And the day after that. Eventually Daniel asked, You going to answer those? I don't think so. You know who it is? I have a feeling. Weeks later, an old mutual friend confirmed it. Sophia's been trying to reach you. I remained quiet. She says you won't answer. I won't. Don't you want closure? I thought carefully before replying. I already found it. He looked surprised. You don't even want to hear what she has to say? I spent months trying to explain myself. And now it's her turn to live with unanswered questions. That wasn't revenge. It wasn't anger. It was peace. She had once left me standing in silence while I begged her to believe me. Now she was discovering how heavy silence could become. I didn't hate Sophia. Part of me probably never would. But I had learned something that changed my life forever. Not every closed door needs to be opened again. Sometimes walking forward is the only answer worth giving. And for the first time, I realized I wasn't walking away from her anymore. I was walking toward the life I had finally learned to build without her. I had stopped looking over my shoulder. Every morning began the same way. A workout, a cup of coffee, a full schedule, a clear mind. The past still existed, but it no longer owned me. Daniel often smiled when he passed my office. You look different. I feel different. Good. You were right. About what? Healing isn't about forgetting. He nodded. It's about refusing to let yesterday control tomorrow. I smiled. I finally understand. While my life continued moving forward, events in my old city were moving in a very different direction. I didn't know any of it. Not yet. It started with an argument. Vanessa stormed into Sophia's living room and slammed her purse onto the sofa. This is ridiculous. Claire followed behind her. No, Vanessa. What's ridiculous is pretending none of this is your fault. My fault? Yes. Sophia looked between them. What are you two talking about? Vanessa crossed her arms. Nothing. No, Claire said. It's time. Sophia stood. Time for what? Claire's voice shook. For the truth. Vanessa glared at her. Don't. Claire ignored the warning. Sophia, I need to tell you something. Sophia's heartbeat seemed to echo through the silent room. What is it? Claire lowered her head. Ethan never deserved what happened. Sophia froze. What? Vanessa laughed nervously. She's being emotional. Claire looked up with tears in her eyes. I'm tired of lying. Sophia stared at her in disbelief. Lying about what? Claire swallowed hard. The things we told you. Sophia took one slow step backward. No. We exaggerated everything. No. We kept making you question him. Sophia shook her head. No. Vanessa pointed at Claire. Stop talking. Claire raised her voice. I'm done protecting you. Sophia turned toward Vanessa. Tell me she's lying. Vanessa remained silent. Tell me. Finally, Vanessa sighed. You really want to know? Yes. You won't like it. I said tell me. Vanessa looked directly into Sophia's eyes. I never thought Ethan was a bad person. The room fell silent. Sophia whispered, What did you say? I said I never believed he was a bad person. Sophia stared at her. Then why? Vanessa looked away. Because I couldn't stand watching you throw your future away. My future? You're an heiress. So, he wasn't one of us. Sophia blinked. One of us? He wasn't wealthy. I never cared. I did. Sophia's voice cracked. So you destroyed my relationship because of money? It wasn't only money. Then what? He didn't belong in our world. Sophia covered her mouth. You manipulated me. I protected you. You lied to me. I did what I thought was necessary. Claire burst into tears. It wasn't necessary. Vanessa glared at her again. You agreed with me. Claire nodded through her tears. I know. Then stop acting innocent. I'm not innocent. Claire wiped her face. I was afraid. Sophia looked at her. Afraid of what? Losing Vanessa. Sophia frowned. What does that mean? Claire took a deep breath. She was my closest friend. And I agreed with her because I didn't want her to turn against me. You helped ruin my life because you were scared? Claire nodded. I'm ashamed of myself. Sophia felt the room spinning. Every memory came rushing back. Every accusation. Every suspicious question. Every warning. Every doubt. Then my face appeared in her mind. The way I had calmly answered every accusation. The way I had begged her to listen. The way I had looked at her after she ended everything. She remembered my final words. I loved you with everything I had. For the first time, she realized they had been completely true. A loud knock interrupted the silence. One of the house staff entered. Miss Sophia, there are officers here. Everyone turned toward the door. Two investigators stepped inside. One of them introduced himself. I'm Detective Miller. He showed his badge. We're investigating financial fraud involving Jason Reynolds. Vanessa's face immediately lost its color. Sophia looked at her. What does Jason have to do with this? Detective Miller opened a folder. We've uncovered financial records, messages, and witness statements connected to several fraudulent investment schemes. Vanessa's breathing became uneven. This has nothing to do with me. We'll determine that. Detective Miller glanced at his notes. We also recovered text conversations discussing how certain people were manipulated for personal advantage. Sophia stared at Vanessa. What conversations? The detective answered carefully. They described spreading false narratives to influence important personal decisions. Claire closed her eyes. Oh no. Detective Miller continued. Those conversations may not be criminal by themselves, but they help establish a pattern of deliberate deception. Vanessa whispered, Jason kept everything. Sophia looked at her in horror. You admitted it. Vanessa didn't answer. She didn't have to. Everything was already falling apart. Hours later, Sophia sat alone in her bedroom. She picked up her phone. My number was still there. Her finger hovered over the screen. I destroyed him, she whispered. Tears rolled down her face. He trusted me. She remembered every moment we had shared. The tiny cafe where we first met. The walks through the park. The promises. The dreams. Then she remembered my eyes on the day she ended everything. Not angry. Just heartbroken. I never even gave him a chance, she cried. She called me again. The phone rang. No answer. She tried once more. Still nothing. The silence felt unbearable. For months, I had lived with unanswered messages inside my heart. Now she understood exactly what that felt like. Miles away, I sat in my office reviewing plans for a new expansion project. Emily knocked on the door. You've been smiling a lot lately. Have I? I think so. Maybe life's finally getting better. Daniel walked in carrying another folder. Ready for your next challenge? I looked at him and smiled. I've never been more ready. Neither of us knew that the truth about my past had finally surfaced. Neither of us knew that the lies which once destroyed my life were now destroying the people who created them. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need explanations. While guilt consumed those who had betrayed me, I kept building a future they could never take away. Without realizing it, karma had already begun doing its work. And the best part was that I never had to lift a finger. People often say time heals everything. I don't think that's true. Time alone doesn't heal anything. What heals you is what you choose to do with the time you're given. Years passed after I walked away from Sophia. I stopped counting the days. I stopped wondering whether she thought about me. Most importantly, I stopped measuring my worth through someone else's opinion. The man who once begged to be believed no longer existed. In his place stood someone stronger, calmer, and finally at peace. One Monday morning, Daniel knocked on my office door. Busy? Always. He laughed. I'll take that as a good sign. It usually is. He placed another file on my desk. Your latest numbers. I opened it and smiled. We exceeded every target. You didn't just exceed them. How much? You broke every company record we've ever had. I leaned back in my chair. I never imagined this. Daniel folded his arms. I did. You've always had more confidence in me than I had in myself. That's because I saw your character before you did. His words meant more than he probably realized. Money had changed my lifestyle. Success had changed my confidence. But neither had changed my values. I still believed honesty mattered. I still believed respect had to be earned. A few weeks later, I attended one of the biggest business leadership conferences in the country. The ballroom buzzed with conversations. Executives exchanged business cards. Investors discussed future partnerships. For the first time in my life, I felt like I truly belonged. A woman approached me with a warm smile. You must be Ethan. I am. I'm Olivia. We shook hands. I've heard impressive things about your work. I hope they're true. She laughed. They are. Olivia was one of the most respected business leaders at the conference. Instead of talking about money, she talked about people. I've read reports about your management style, she said. Should I be worried? Not at all. You treat employees with respect. I try. You build trust instead of fear. I've learned that fear never lasts. She nodded. That's exactly why I wanted to meet you. We spent nearly an hour discussing leadership, responsibility, and long-term partnerships. Finally, Olivia smiled. I'd like us to work together. I'd like that too. I respect people who refuse to compromise their integrity. Thank you. No, she replied. You earned that respect. Those words reminded me of something Daniel once said. Character always lasts longer than reputation. As Olivia walked away to greet another executive, I turned toward the stage. That's when I saw her. Sophia. She stood near the entrance, completely still. For a moment, neither of us moved. She looked almost the same. Beautiful. Elegant. But the confidence she once carried had disappeared. Her eyes slowly filled with tears. She walked toward me. Ethan. I hadn't heard my name in her voice for years. Hello, Sophia. She stopped a few feet away. I almost didn't recognize you. I smiled politely. It's been a long time. You've changed. I have. So have you. She looked down. Not in the ways that matter. Silence settled between us. Finally, she whispered, Can we talk? I glanced around the ballroom. We can. We stepped onto a quiet balcony overlooking the city. Neither of us spoke at first. Then she took a deep breath. I owe you an apology. I remained silent. I should have believed you. Another pause. I let other people decide who you were. Her voice began shaking. I hurt the only man who ever loved me without asking for anything in return. Tears rolled down her cheeks. I know the truth now. I looked at the skyline. I heard pieces of what happened. It was all lies. I know. I destroyed us because I listened to fear instead of love. I closed my eyes for a moment. Hearing those words hurt more than I expected. Not because I still wanted her back. Because they confirmed that all the pain had been unnecessary. She wiped away another tear. Vanessa admitted everything. I nodded. I heard. Claire confessed too. I know. I've wanted to tell you this for years. She looked directly into my eyes. I'm sorry. The sincerity in her voice was undeniable. Years earlier, hearing those words would have meant everything to me. Now they simply felt peaceful. I forgive you. She looked surprised. You do? I do. She covered her mouth as she cried. I don't deserve that. Maybe not. Then why? Because forgiveness isn't something I'm giving you. She frowned. What do you mean? I'm giving it to myself. She stared at me. For years I thought healing meant one day hearing you admit I was right. I smiled gently. I was wrong. What healed me wasn't your apology. She listened quietly. It was building a life that no longer depended on whether you believed me. Her tears fell even faster. I wish I could change everything. I know. If I had one more chance. I raised my hand gently. Sophia. She stopped speaking. You don't need to explain anymore. I owe you that. You owed me trust. She lowered her eyes. I know. We can't rewrite the past. No. But we can choose what we carry into the future. She nodded slowly. I'll always regret losing you. I believed her. Years ago, those words would have reopened every wound inside me. Instead, I felt compassion. Not hope. Not longing. Just compassion. I truly hope you find peace, I said. She looked surprised. After everything I did? Yes. She gave a broken smile. You really have changed. I had to. We stood together for one final moment. Then someone called my name. Ethan. I turned. Olivia waved from inside the ballroom. Our meeting's about to start. I'll be right there. I looked back at Sophia. She smiled through her tears. I'm glad you found the life you deserve. I nodded. I hope you find yours too. She quietly walked away. I watched her disappear into the crowd before returning to the conference. Olivia smiled as I joined her. Everything okay? I smiled back. Better than okay. As we walked toward the stage, I realized something that once seemed impossible. Healing was never about making someone regret breaking your heart. It was about becoming someone whose happiness no longer depended on their regret. And for the first time in my life, I knew I was completely free. People often confuse forgiveness with reconciliation. Years ago, I made that mistake too. I believed that if two people loved each other enough, they could survive anything. Life taught me something different. Some wounds heal, some scars remain, and some doors once closed are meant to stay that way. A few weeks after the conference, the business world was buzzing with another kind of news. Not about investments, not about promotions, about Vanessa. Emily walked into my office carrying her tablet. You've seen this? No. She placed it on my desk. An article filled the screen. Jason had accepted a plea agreement in the financial fraud investigation. Several private messages had become public during the investigation, and although Vanessa wasn't charged with the fraud itself, those messages revealed how proudly she had manipulated people for personal gain. I quietly read the article. Emily watched my expression. You okay? I will be. They're saying her reputation is ruined. I closed the tablet. I don't enjoy seeing people fall. I didn't think you would. I just hope everyone learns something. Emily nodded. That's probably why people respect you. A few days later, I heard even more. Vanessa had lost several professional opportunities. People no longer trusted her. Even Jason had left her. According to those who knew them, their final argument was loud enough for half the neighborhood to hear. You used everyone, Jason shouted. Vanessa pointed at him. You don't get to judge me. I learned from the best. You only cared about money, and you only cared about control. Their relationship ended the same way so many dishonest relationships do. Without trust, without loyalty, without anyone left to blame except themselves. Claire disappeared almost completely. An old acquaintance called me one evening. Have you heard about Claire? No. She quit her job. I frowned. Why? They say she couldn't handle the guilt. I stayed silent. She barely talks to anyone now. I hope she finds peace. You don't hate her? Hating people never helped me heal. After hanging up, I sat quietly for several minutes. I truly meant what I had said. Bitterness would only rebuild the prison I had already escaped. Life continued moving forward. Business was growing faster than ever. Olivia and I had successfully launched our partnership. Daniel often joked that I smiled too much now. I remember the man who walked into my office years ago, he said one afternoon. I remember him too. I hardly recognize him. Neither do I. Then my phone vibrated. One message. From Sophia. Could we meet? Just once. Please. I stared at the screen. Emily noticed. Everything okay? I'm not sure. You don't have to answer today. I know. 2 days later, I agreed to meet. Not because I wanted the past back. Because I wanted complete honesty between us. We met in the same small cafe where we had first introduced ourselves years ago. Sophia arrived early. She stood as I approached. Thank you for coming. You're welcome. Neither of us touched the coffee after it arrived. She finally broke the silence. I miss you. I looked at her gently. I know. I think about us every day. I believe you. She lowered her eyes. I've changed. I can see that. I want to prove it. I took a slow breath. Sophia, I know I don't deserve another chance. She paused. But I'm asking anyway. The pain in her voice was real. So was the conflict inside me. Part of me remembered the woman who laughed with me in tiny cafes. The woman who held my hand in the park. The woman who once promised forever. Another part remembered standing alone while she believed strangers over me. I still care about you, I admitted. Hope appeared in her eyes. But her expression fell. I also remember what happened. Tears filled her eyes again. I know. I trusted you with my heart. And I broke it. Yes. She reached across the table but stopped before touching my hand. I spend every day wishing I could undo it. I know. I would choose you this time. I smiled sadly. I believe you. You do? Yes. Then why does it feel like you're saying goodbye? I looked out the cafe window before answering. Because trust isn't rebuilt by regret alone. She closed her eyes. I understand. A few evenings later, I visited my apartment building's courtyard after work. An elderly woman smiled as she watered her flowers. Long day. I smiled back. It usually is. She laughed. I'm Rose. Ethan. Grandmother Rose had lived in the building longer than anyone else. She invited me to sit on the nearby bench. You look like someone carrying two different hearts. I laughed softly. Is it that obvious? Only to people who've lived long enough. I told her everything. Not every detail. Just enough. When I finished, she nodded slowly. You've already forgiven her. I think I have. But you're wondering whether forgiveness means going back. I looked at her in surprise. Exactly. She smiled kindly. My husband once told me something after our biggest argument. What was it? She looked toward the sunset. He said, love can survive mistakes, but self-respect cannot survive being abandoned. I stayed quiet. She continued. Forgiveness sets your heart free. And love is beautiful. She smiled again. But love should never ask you to forget your own worth. Her words settled deep inside me. That night, Sophia called. I answered. Ethan, I'm here. I've been thinking. So have I. She took a shaky breath. I already know your answer. I closed my eyes. I'll always be grateful for the good memories. She began crying quietly. But we can't go back. I know. I forgive you completely. I know. But I can't build my future on a foundation that already collapsed. She remained silent for several seconds. Finally, she whispered, Thank you for loving me when I didn't know how to love you back. I smiled through my own tears. And thank you for teaching me the difference between loving someone and losing myself. The call ended peacefully. Not with anger. Not with blame. Just acceptance. As I looked up at the night sky, I realized one final truth. Forgiving someone can heal your heart, but giving them another chance is a completely different decision. And sometimes, choosing yourself is the greatest act of love you'll ever make. Some endings arrive with shouting. Others arrive with silence. Mine arrived on a quiet autumn afternoon when I received one final message from Sophia. Please. One last meeting. No expectations. No pressure. Just goodbye. I stared at the screen for a long time. Years earlier, I would have rushed to see her. Now, I simply took a deep breath before replying. One last meeting. We agreed to meet at the same park where we had once dreamed about our future. When I arrived, Sophia was already sitting on the old wooden bench. She stood as soon as she saw me. "Thank you for coming." I nodded. "You said this would be the last time." "It will." For a moment, neither of us spoke. The breeze carried fallen leaves across the path between us. Finally, she broke the silence. "I've spent years wishing I could go back." I listened quietly. I replay that day over and over. Her voice trembled. "I keep wondering what would have happened if I had trusted you instead of everyone else." I looked at her with calm eyes. "I used to wonder that too." She lowered her head. "I lost the best person who ever loved me." Tears rolled down her cheeks. "I know saying sorry isn't enough. No. I know I can't erase what I did. No. But I needed you to know something." She looked directly into my eyes. "I have regretted that decision every single day." I believed her, not because I was still in love with her, because regret had become part of who she was. "I wish I could erase the past," she whispered. "I know. I would choose you every time." A sad smile crossed my face. "I believe you would." She looked surprised. "You do?" "Yes." "Then why does that make this hurt even more?" "Because believing you and returning are two different things." She closed her eyes. "I understand." Footsteps interrupted our conversation. I turned and saw Vanessa walking slowly toward us. She looked nothing like the confident woman I remembered. Her shoulders were lowered. Her expression was exhausted. She stopped several feet away. I almost turned around 3 times before coming here. Nobody answered. She took a shaky breath. "Ethan." I waited. "I owe you more than an apology." "Go on." She looked down at the ground. "I judged you before I ever knew you." I remained silent. I convinced myself that someone without wealth could never truly belong beside Sophia. She laughed bitterly. I wasn't protecting her. She wiped away a tear. I was protecting my own pride. Sophia quietly cried beside us. Vanessa continued. "I lied. I exaggerated. I planted doubts until they became her beliefs." She finally looked at me. "You never deserved any of it." "I know." "I'm sorry." I studied her face. For the first time, I saw no arrogance, only regret. "I accept your apology." She blinked. "You do?" "Yes." "You don't hate me?" "I carried enough pain already." She covered her face as tears fell. "I'll regret this for the rest of my life." "That's something only you can live with." A few minutes later, another familiar figure approached. Claire. She looked even more nervous. I almost couldn't come. Vanessa stepped aside without saying a word. Claire faced me. I followed someone else's voice because I was too afraid to lose a friendship. She shook her head. I lost my integrity instead. I remembered the quiet woman who had always stood behind Vanessa. I should have spoken up. "You should have." I knew things didn't make sense. She cried openly. But I stayed silent. Silence settled around us. Finally she whispered, "Can you forgive me?" I nodded gently. "Yes." She stared at me. "Just like that." "Forgiveness isn't pretending nothing happened." She listened carefully. "It's choosing not to let yesterday poison tomorrow." Claire wiped away her tears. "I don't deserve your kindness." "This isn't kindness." "What is it?" "It's freedom." None of us spoke for several moments. The weight we had all carried for years seemed lighter. Not gone, just lighter. Sophia looked at me once more. "So, this really is goodbye?" I smiled sadly. "It is. I still love you." Her words were honest. Years ago, hearing them would have changed everything. Now they simply reminded me how much life could change. "I know. I'll probably always love you." "I know. Is there truly no chance?" I took a slow breath before answering. "I'll always treasure the person I thought you were." She closed her eyes. "But my future can't be built on memories of betrayal." Fresh tears rolled down her face. "I understand. I've forgiven you." "I know. But forgiveness doesn't erase consequences." She nodded. "I finally understand that." I stepped closer. "I hope you build a beautiful life. Even without you? Especially without me." She gave a heartbreaking smile. "You really became the man I always believed you could be." I laughed softly. "No. I became the man I needed to become after losing everything." She reached out. This time we shared a brief, respectful hug. Not as lovers, not as strangers, just two people saying goodbye to a chapter that had shaped them both. When we stepped apart, I looked at Vanessa and Claire. I hope all of you find peace. Vanessa nodded through tears. We'll spend the rest of our lives earning it. Claire quietly agreed. I think that's fair. I turned and began walking toward the park entrance. No one called my name. No one asked me to stay. Behind me, Sophia watched until I disappeared from sight. For the first time, she truly understood something that years of regret had been unable to teach her. Love alone cannot repair trust once it has been willingly broken. Months passed. Life continued moving forward. My business expanded into new cities. Daniel officially retired, smiling as he handed more responsibility to me. You've earned every bit of this. I couldn't have done it without you. You did the hard part. Olivia and I celebrated another successful partnership. She raised her coffee cup. To integrity, I smiled. To people who keep their word, Emily laughed. And to finally taking a day off once in a while. I'll think about it. You always say that. And one day I might mean it. We all laughed together. The sound felt genuine, comfortable, real. As I looked around the table, I realized something important. The people beside me weren't connected by money. They weren't connected by status. They were connected by trust. That was worth more than anything I had once believed success could buy. Sometimes I still thought about Sophia. Not with anger, not with longing, only with gratitude for the lessons hidden inside the heartbreak. Losing her had forced me to find myself. And finding myself became the greatest victory of all. People often believe revenge is watching those who hurt you suffer. I learned something better. Real victory is waking up one morning and realizing their choices no longer control your happiness. That is the day you become truly free. As I walked toward another new beginning, surrounded by genuine friends, meaningful work, and a life built on honesty instead of fear, I smiled without looking back. The greatest revenge had never been making them suffer. It had been becoming someone they could never have again. And that was more than enough.